It's always hard to be on the other side of someone's great moment.
And then you forget about the guys who are sitting there having to get out of the way of the confetti.
Here's some salt. Here's your gaping wound. Let's just rub it right in there.
Getting 7 points here.
All 6 of them, you work your tail off.
5 seconds left. 4, you dream of 3, 4. Number 3. Doing only 2 questions, 2 weeks. 4.
Well, it was a heartbreaking way to lose it.
What would be the most devastating loss?
Number 1 has to be a big game.
Steps up, throws.
I think the most devastating losses are the ones where the win is right in your hands and it's snatched away from you.
What an unbelievable turn of events.
Because it was close, because it was there, because they could taste it and feel it.
Up 10 with a minute and a half left and you choke it away.
You have an entire organization come apart at the seams.
Very disappointing ending. A lot of people are going to be hurt by this.
This is tough. You're testing me here.
One thing is certain, for a loss to make our list, it must devastate players and fans alike.
It takes like a week for the tears to actually stop, and then you're like numb.
So easy to feel the heartbreak.
You always hear time heals all wounds. Painful losses, though, never get over. They stay with you for a lifetime.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
One of the fun aspects of this, too, is what's devastating for an individual fan base is often quite satisfying for the rest of us.
Some salt in the wounds.
That's why people watch shows like this.
You got me. You got to tell me what it is.
The number 10 most devastating loss of all time. The 2002 NFC Championship game.
2002 NFC Championship? Who was really upset about this loss? Donovan McNabb, his mom, and Rocky Balboa?
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
The Bucs were actually maybe the best team in football that year. So I don't really know that was that devastating a loss.
You have to really be from Philly to understand that kind of suffering.
This definitely deserves a spot on the list.
No!
You ask any Eagles fan right now, this was the game that crushed everybody's soul.
In the seasons moving up to that loss, everything Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb did turned to gold in Philadelphia.
The first year, they didn't win very much. The second year, they made the playoffs. Third year, they went to the NFC Championship game in St. Louis and lost. So the next logical step was the Super Bowl.
Going into that game, it felt like a coronation. The Eagles couldn't lose the Buccaneers, not at home.
This is the last game in the vet. After we win this, we're going to celebrate right here.
All right, so it's the last game in the vet, and the Eagles look good. But the kicker, the cherry on top of the sundae that nobody ever got to eat, was that Tampa couldn't play in the cold, and it was cold that day.
They won one game when it was below 40 degrees and never won a real playoff game. That tells you that they got no chance.
Gramatica approaches the football, kicks it. The game is underway.
First 4 plays down the field. Big return.
All the way down to the 25-yard line.
Big Deuce Staley run.
Deuce Staley up the middle. Touchdown! Eagles lead just 52 seconds into this game.
I know half of the Philadelphia area sang the Eagles theme song, Fly, Eagles, Fly, and said, this is going to be the happiest day of our lives.
Really, in hindsight, we should have known better.
Well, the Eagles are in trouble.
The Buccaneers spent the rest of the game giving the Eagles a wedgie.
And this Bucs team doesn't look the least bit cold.
And then you had the interception to Rondé Barber for the 92-yard touchdown return. That was the nail in the coffin.
And with that, ends the dream for this season.
This is how I watched that play. I couldn't believe it. It was so awful to watch, and then I forever hated the Barbers, both of them.
I'm going to San Diego.
We know that was devastating because it was the only time that the Eagles' home crowd did not boo them coming off the field after a playoff defeat.
The only sound was these muffled steps as thousands of people just walked out of the vet for the last time.
If you walk the streets of Philly and you ask them, should it be number 10, they're going to be like, no. It should definitely be the number 1 most devastating loss in NFL history.
Coming up.
The officials are going to take a look at this. It's going to be an interception.
Which game with a controversial call led to a devastating loss that made our list?
To explain that one, you'd probably be better off going to someone else.
All right, guys. Last play of the game.
As you can guess, when we put together our top 10 list, some moments came up just short.
Didn't make it. No.
Sorry, Titans. Just like in Super Bowl 34, you didn't quite reach the promised land.
That was heartbreaking, man. The end zone was right here, and the ball was right here.
It's one of the great tackles of all time.
True, but it's one of the most controversial calls of all time that makes our list.
The number 9 most devastating loss of all time. The Tuck Rule game.
There's not a lot of games that you can just say one thing and everybody knows what it is. You don't even need to say Tuck Rule. You just say Tuck.
Everyone knows the name, but does anyone really know what the Tuck Rule is?
The Tuck Rule is if you're in the
The Tuck Rule is
this a tuck? Is this a tuck? Is it Justin Tuck?
To explain that one, you'd probably be better off going to someone else.
If you're throwing and pulling it in, it's being tucked, it's not a fumble.
I think it's called the Tuck Rule for everyone except Raiders fans. They changed one of the letters.
And so here was this Cinderella Patriots team. Snow is coming down.
It was this winter wonderland of football.
Snow angels and all that. The Tuck Rule was the biggest bit of nonsense I think we've ever seen.
What's it showing blitz? Here he is, bearing down on Brady, calls the fumble. Beacon dives on the ball.
It was an outrage. It was clearly a fumble. Any grown person with the gift of sight knows it was a fumble.
Look at Tom Brady's body language after the fumble. Tom Brady believes there is 0.00% chance that he can win this game.
I don't even know if Giselle and Tom Brady were together at the time. Even she knew he fumbled.
Raiders fans get mad at me, but it probably was the correct call.
Now, it looked, of course, we're biased, that it was a forward pass attempt. It looked like his arm was going forward.
It looked like a fumble, felt like a fumble. Then all of a sudden, there's this explanation.
Quarterback's arm was going forward. It is all right. Patriots retain the ball.
The game was over. It's done. Raiders getting ready to move on.
The crowd will tell you whether he makes it or not. Snap, ball down. Kick is up. Patriots! Patriots win in overtime. 16-13.
The Tuck Rule. When you lose, but they make a rule so you can win. It's like the 2000 presidential election.
This should be one of the top 5. Devastating. That's devastating.
The Patriots dynasty was born the night that a possible dynasty for the Oakland Raiders could have been born. Without that, Gruden might stay in Oakland.
Hey, I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so happy for you. Let's all start a chant here. Raiders! Raiders! Raiders!
Maybe they go to the Super Bowl that year. Maybe they go back the next year with Gruden.
I think the Tuck Rule game was more than just a devastating loss. It was one of the most significant turning points in NFL history.
And Oakland went this way, and New England went this way.
and for Oakland, that just sucks.
Sorry, Raiders fans. Sometimes it happens.
The number 8 most devastating losses of all time. Favre's title game picks.
Brett Favre has so many incredible things to be known for. So many touchdown passes.
There it is, our all-time winning touchdown passer.
So many game-winning drives.
Got a man out there over the and a dagger.
And so many terrible, head-scratching interceptions at the worst time.
Play action unloads near side. Aeneas Williams has got it. Touchdown.
Brett Favre interception. Who knew?
We're tied at 17.
Brian Dawkins interception.
Favre.
After struggling in the mid-2000s, Favre led the Packers on one final title push in 2007.
Welcome to Lambeau Field in Green Bay for the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, this is the weather Brett Favre is known for. Oh, yeah. I'm so tired of hearing that.
Brett Favre had an undefeated record in sub-40-degree weather for most of his career.
But with that is just this sinking feeling that as he's getting older, it looks like the cold is way colder for him.
But Favre came out with a hot hand. While the Giants seemed to freeze in the Arctic conditions of Lambeau Field.
Kick line drive to the upright. No good! Overtime in the NFC Championship.
It's Favre time. Here comes Brett.
It was all set up for Brett Favre versus Tom Brady, and Corey Webster got in the way.
Favre back to pass. Looking to his right. The pass intercepted by the Giants at the 40-yard line. Corey Webster.
An already impossibly cold day turned 30 degrees colder.
That was it for Favre as a Packer. It's amazing to think.
If you look it up in the football dictionary, the verb to Favre means to throw a soul-crushing interception in the NFC Championship.
One interception in an NFC Championship is crushing, but do it twice for two different franchises and your trail of devastation is top 10 worthy.
What team is more tortured by late season heartbreaks than the poor Minnesota Vikings? Well, here, with a Packers quarterback, they're going to make this all right.
Let's come out with some piss and vinegar. Get after their ass.
They had the Saints beat at the Superdome.
Game's tied at 28. Fine, because Brett Favre is the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings.
This was it. This book was written. This is how he was going to go out on top.
And then that moment.
Favre has all sorts of time. Throws it, and it's intercepted.
That interception when he was a Viking was ugly. That might be his worst interception that didn't involve a text.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. I mean, you can take a knee and try a 56-yard field goal.
The most memorable thing about that loss was Paul Allen, the play-by-play guy for the Vikes. His call.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
That's perfect Paul Allen, and that's perfect for Vikings football. It's a tortured franchise.
Maybe that is justice being delivered by the football gods, by the way. Maybe the Vikings fans didn't deserve to see that team go to a Super Bowl with number 4, who tormented them for so many years. It wasn't right from the get-go.
Imagine where Brett Favre's career would be if he hadn't won a Super Bowl early in his career. This would easily be number 1 on your list if Favre had never won a Super Bowl.
We won the ball, we're going to score. Short drop, quick throw, left side.
Up next, which team's choke led to a devastating loss? That's number 6 on our list.
That's the ultimate choke.
A comeback for the ages left Green Bay winless in Seattle.
Touchdown, Randall Cobb.
The loss that must be on here. It is the Green Bay Packers in the NFC title game of 2014. 5 minutes to go in the game. The score is 19-7. It is over.
Seattle wins that game 1 out of every 1,000 times. And then all it took was one big pass over the top, and it was over.
Hey, yo, Friday! Start! Russell takes the snap, drops back. He's going to throw down the middle. He's got it back. The ball's caught. Touchdown. The game is over. The Seahawks are going back to the Super Bowl.
That is the worst loss in the history of the Super Bowl era.
Buffalo Bills fans might disagree.
The number 7 most devastating loss of all time. The Music City Miracle.
To me, the Music City Miracle has to be the worst gut punch possibly in the history of the NFL.
That's a bad way to lose, too.
That one's the one where there's just no way. And then something just stupid happens.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them in what has been a magical season to this point? If they do, they need it now. Christie kicks it high and short.
The Music City Miracle is highlighted by one of the worst coaching decisions in NFL history, which is the decision to sit Doug Flutie and instead play Rob the Human Sack Johnson.
That was a crime because Doug Flutie was the best guy to lead that football team.
So they were about to validate whatever crazy decision that had been made about the starting quarterback.
The game is on the line. Moore waiting for the snap. The put down. The kick on the way. Long enough. And it is good.
Yes. This is our house. Our house, baby.
You're a champion. You got to win on the road, baby.
Got to win on the road.
They kicked a field goal on 3rd down with 20 seconds left. Almost everybody runs the clock down to 2 seconds, and that's the final play. Kicking the field goal on 3rd down was a big mistake.
They call it home run throwback.
Right play, right time, right situation.
Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
And I remember they had the play-by-play piped in.
He's got something.
He's got something. He's got something.
He's got something. 50. He's got it. He's got it. 20. 10. He's got it. End zone. Touchdown Titans.
And there were no flags.
To me, that's one of the great things Jeff Fisher does. He just has you prepared for crazy situations.
The Titans practiced it the last thing in every Saturday walkthrough.
You know, there's times in practice where we work on these little things, and I know some of you stand back there and you say, oh, geez, what are they doing that for?
This play was watched and analyzed ad nauseum.
And it still lives on because of the controversy of it. Was it a lateral? Was it not a lateral?
There's no clear evidence in that play that the passes going forwards or backwards.
We're still debating this 15 or 20 years later. It's a pretty miraculous play.
It's a miracle! Tennessee has pulled a miracle!
That game was only a miracle if you were a Titans fan. Because all the Bills fans I know call it was a forward pass!
There may be a debate on whether or not it was a forward pass, but there is no debating the impact it had on the Bills franchise.
The Bills have not been back to the playoffs since. That's the last playoff game the Buffalo Bills have ever been in.
The number 6 most devastating loss of all time, Houston's choke.
Boone looking to throw. Pump fakes, forced out to his left. Now throws, touchdown! Looking into the end zone. Got a touchdown, Webster Splitter!
You don't play a better first half of offensive football than the Oilers have just played.
For the shotgun, 4-man rush for the Oilers. Reich throwing it to the right through the hands of McKellar. It's picked up. McDowell down the far sideline. They'll score for a touchdown. Bubba McDowell.
Oh, when it rains it pours, don't it?
The lights are on here at Rich Stadium. They've been on since this morning. You can pretty much turn them out on the Bills right now.
Everybody said the problem with the run and shoot is that you can't keep a lead because you won't stop passing the ball and you can't run out the clock.
Warren Moon just kept throwing it and throwing it and throwing it.
I don't think their offense was the big problem at all.
It was terrible coaching. It was terrible playing. Strategy was awful. Not being ready for an onside kick.
And a little onside kickoff. Let's see who got the ball.
Yes, sir.
They have the ball.
You better believe they do. And guess who doesn't? Christie.
How are you not ready for an onside kick in that moment? Up 35-10, that's the moment where you should be looking for an onside kick.
You look at some of these plays, the closest defensive back was somewhere in Syracuse.
John Beebe was wide open. A blown assignment there.
A blown assignment indeed.
God wanted Buffalo to win that wild card game.
It was sort of a hysterical pandemonium.
Pandemonium all over.
It was a life force, and you just felt it overwhelming the Oilers.
You gotta believe if you're a Bills fan.
We can overcome, baby. We can overcome this.
It's like that proverbial snowball rolling down a hill. You just can't stop it.
She throws. Reed, touchdown. Reed for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
It was no longer a 32-point lead. Then once it got down to like 2 touchdowns, you knew all bets were off, that the Bills were going to come back because the Oilers couldn't get a stop. Just get one stop. One stop.
When you want to look for a signature Bills moment from those Super Bowl years, that is the moment.
Great comeback and playoff history.
But on the other hand, you have to think about the Houston Oilers and the choke job that happened.
That is still the biggest choke in NFL history.
Bills can win it here. Wright puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. They win it 41-38.
They come back from a 32-point deficit and the Houston Oilers end up moving to Nashville.
Now that's devastating. There's nothing left after that game.
To have that happen in the playoffs with the huge lead they had makes it the most devastating loss in NFL history.
They choked.
Still to come, the number 5 most devastating loss has our panel perplexed.
What? That one word comes to mind. What? What?
No more! No more!
Sorry, everyone. We still have 5 devastating losses to relive.
Oh, man.
But first, a recap of our list so far.
Number 10.
It was so awful to watch.
The Eagles implode in the Bets' final game. Number 9.
Quarterback arms going forward.
I think it's called the tuck rule for everyone except Raiders fans. They changed one of the letters.
Number 8. Brett Favre picks devastating times to throw picks.
Brett Favre interception. Who knew?
Number 7. The kick return that KO'd the Bills.
Has to be the worst gut punch possibly in the history of the NFL.
Number 6. The Oilers don't know the way to Buffalo.
The closest defensive back was somewhere in Syracuse.
John Beebe was wide open.
And now, the number 5 most devastating loss of all time. Super Bowl 49.
Oh my God. Why did you put me in this position right now to think about that again?
The grandest stage in American sport is set.
Super Bowl 49 is here.
Might be the greatest Super Bowl.
What would you want that wasn't in that game?
We're watching a star, people!
Yes, Super Bowl 49 lived up to all the hype, but let's cut to the chase. This game takes the number 5 spot on our list because of a wild final 2 minutes, which started with a play that nearly led to a very different, devastating outcome.
Oh my God. Man, you don't know.
Oh, that catch! That nobody talks about that catch.
He's got it. He didn't overthrow him.
First, reaching up, ball slapped. He caught it! It fell into his arms! He caught it! He caught it! Holy catfish!
Look at how many times it bounced off a body part. It was like knee, head, and then ankle. I think it bounced off of his liver, maybe.
A remarkable grab by Jermaine Kearse.
Oh my goodness, what are Patriots fans going to do after this game when it really sinks in?
Man. That one word comes to mind. What? What?
It's going to be impossible to separate the greatness of the game from the inexplicable way that it ended.
Second down and goal from the 1 after the 4-yard run by Marshawn Lynch. Give it to him again. Give it to him again. Give it to him again.
Here in New England, how do you play this?
Lynch in the backfield. Russell looks, throws inside. Ow!
What? How do you not run the ball with these?
Oh my God! It's picked off at the goal line. Oh no! Oh my word! With 20 seconds left.
We're going to be second guessing that forever.
Is that the worst call ever?
Yeah. You have Marshawn Lynch. You have beast mode. Why do you have to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch?
I know statistically he hadn't done great in those situations, but he was hopped up on Skittles. Totally like a 4th grader after the pinata is broken at a party.
Why don't you give the ball to beast mode? You got beast mode, man. Oh.
What an unbelievable turn of events.
I blame Marshawn Lynch for them not running. Maybe if he would have spoken up and said something that week.
What's going through Marshawn's mind when what could have been the greatest moment in his career and he did not get the call to get the ball is WTF. What the football? You kids know what I really meant.
Wow. As disappointing and as heartbreaking a finish, partner, as I can remember a game.
Yeah, what a way to lose one.
That has to be higher. It absolutely has to be in the top 2.
You could put it at number 5, but you could probably put it at number 1 because you are 2 feet from confetti.
That just had to crush them because back-to-back Super Bowl wins, that really cements you.
In a word, I feel like the Seahawks were just deflated.
Yeah, I mean, if we can use that terminology.
Can we say that?
Man, why? Why?
The number 4 most devastating loss of all time. Super Bowl 43.
The Cardinals were the sad sack franchises, kind of this vagabond outfit that had never really gotten its footing and never really reached its potential.
That's why I've got a problem with this being that high on the list, because they've always been such a vagabond franchise that how do you really feel terribly for Cardinals fans?
If there are alleged diehard Cardinal fans, I want to see them.
We grew up St. Louis Cardinals fans.
For years, the Cardinals and their fans were mired in mediocrity. But in 2008, things changed.
Arizona has a true home field advantage, and it's awesome.
They had just been on an amazing ride as one of the worst teams to ever make the postseason, and then to go on an unbelievable playoff run.
You got hot, you had Warner, you had Larry Fitzgerald, and you had a team that had earned its way there.
Super Bowl 43, here we come.
And they had every right to think they could win that game.
We knew deep down in our hearts that they would lose.
First to go with the 2. Steelers show blitz. He throws the pass up. It's going to be picked up. James Harrison has it. He's running up the sideline. 25-30, 35-40. Still on his feet at the 45 and down. No, he's still on his feet. Here comes Harrison jumping over people to the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5, and that's a touchdown from Pittsburgh.
The play James Harrison made at the end of the first half was just transcendent.
A 14-point swing at the end of the half when the Cardinals could have been in charge of the game.
Same old Cardinals. Same old Cardinals.
And with all of that, there's Kurt Warner throwing the ball to Larry Fitzgerald over the middle, and you're going, oh my God, they're going to win this game.
You had one of the most amazing, memorable plays in Super Bowl history.
Warner saw him, put it on it. He turned upfield and ran it home. A 64-yard touchdown pass by Warner to Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald scored that touchdown with 2.5 minutes, and Wisenhunt, having coached Ben Roethlisberger with the Steelers, in his mind he thought we might have scored too early.
And they have a long field to drive.
And then to give up a drive and give up really what was a perfect pass from Ben Roethlisberger to lose it.
I mean, that was a great throw and a great catch.
To be that close and to lose on that play.
I mean, how many times do teams have a game-winning drive by when it starts with a holding call that puts you back at your own 12, 10? Never.
When you win Super Bowls, man, that changed your life. Don't nobody talk about the loser. So, man, I come this close to lose. Cut me off in a championship game, because I don't even want to make it to the Super Bowl if I know I'm going to lose.
To lose in the way that they lost as a franchise when you know you're only going to get maybe 1 or 2 chances to ever be that close to the Super Bowl, that's brutal.
I mean, I'm sure we'll see him in the Super Bowl in like 2070 or something like that, because they get there once every 50 years, once every 45 years. So pencil him in for like Super Bowl 90. He'll be in there.
Coming up, which 90s loss hasn't gotten any less devastating with time?
I went back once and watched that game. It was worse than I imagined.
There's no question why our top 10 lists are so popular.
Throws it deep downfield. Moss. Touchdown, Vikings.
Who the heck made that list? I mean, it had to be somebody that's 22 years old. It's a total sin. You guys have totally botched this again.
You absolutely are overlooking the 1998 NFC title game loss by the Minnesota Vikings.
Gary Anderson just has to line up to kick the field goal. It's a chippy.
Gary Anderson doesn't miss a kick all year.
He makes this. Pretty much this game is over. 39-yard attempt. The kick by Anderson on the way. No good.
How you can't have the 98 Vikings on this top 10 list is remarkable to me.
What could possibly be worse than wide left? How about wide right?
The number 3 most devastating loss of all time. Wide right.
8 seconds to play. The Super Bowl will ride on the right foot of Norwood.
They create championship gear for both teams. Where does all that championship gear go? Down to third world countries. So there are huge, like, villages and swaths of Honduras that think the Buffalo Bills was a dynasty. Greatest team in the 90s. They won 4 Super Bowls.
4, baby. How sweet it is.
Scott Norwood is a hero in Central America.
The Bills
Bills have won a Super Bowl.
Pure fantasy. The reality is devastating.
Buffalo's gonna win the Super Bowl.
The Bills in Super Bowl 25, one of the best teams in history.
Think of all the Hall of Famers on that team. Andre Reed, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, James Lofton.
It was a great Bills team. It was the best of all their Super Bowl teams.
Here we go. The Super Bowl is underway.
I went back once and watched that game, and again, maybe I'm negative, it was worse than I imagined.
Jim Kelly brings on his offense, and the K-Gun will go to work, the no-huddle offense.
The K-Gun really expected to walk in there and handle Jeff Hostetler's Giants.
It's time to put the heat on them now.
It came down to a missed field goal on the final play, but they had too many other chances to do what they needed to do to win.
Second down, they're after him, he falls down in the end.
Early on, Bruce Smith sacks Jeff Hostetler in the end zone. Somehow, Jeff Hostetler does not fumble the ball, and it only goes for a safety.
This gives the Bills 2 more points now. They lead 12-3.
That's a touchdown. Game over.
It's OJ in there. That's who I want.
It was Parcells' masterpiece. Run it with O.J. Anderson. Let's just own the clock.
The Bills have not had the ball in the second half.
So this offense, this K-Gun offense, which is so up-tempo, can't beat us.
OJ, touchdown!
With all of that, the Bills were in position to win that game, and it would have changed history.
Scott Norwood, a very accurate kicker through the years, but not a lot of range.
Scott Norwood had never kicked a 47-yard field goal on grass in his entire career.
There was a holding penalty right before the kick, and nobody ever remembers that. Take away that penalty, and it's a very makeable field goal.
Let's do it, Scotty boy! Right, puts it down on the way. It's long enough. No good. Wide right.
Wide right entered the sports lexicon and will never leave.
Culturally, he became the guy that's synonymous with failure. And you look at like movies like Ace Ventura, Ray Finkel is Scott Norwood. It's sad to say, but he had the perfect face for failure.
It was a heartbreaking way to lose it.
Number one. Why? It's the only Super Bowl where it was win or lose based on a last-second kick.
And there no doubt will be other Super Bowls in their future.
They were inches away from winning the Super Bowl, and it basically led into 4 painful losses. And this is a city that's never won anything in a major sports league that still exists.
You know, it's a team effort, and you can't blame any one individual.
I think Buffalo is a forgiving place, and if Scott Norwood were to walk into a bar, people would put their arm around him, have a picture taken with him, but as soon as he walked out the bar, they'd be ripping him.
Coming up,
You got a little stick to your stomach, are you, huh?
which 2 words can instantly make millions of people feel queasy?
It makes the fans want to throw up.
The Detroit Lions are rife with devastating losses and are one of 4 teams to never appear in a Super Bowl.
It's a really, really, really horrible feeling when your team loses a big game.
In the 2014 wildcard playoff against Dallas, they appear to be 1 play away from getting 1 step closer to the NFL's promised land.
That'll be pass interference on the Cowboys. Are they saying no flag? They're bringing it back.
Didn't he announce pass interference?
Absolutely did.
They robbed them of a playoff win.
I think Detroit would have won that game if the call had gone that way.
It looked like a classic case of pass interference.
The Lions haven't won a playoff game since 1991, but their postseason heartbreak is nothing compared to the team at the center of our number 2 most devastating losses.
The number 2 most devastating losses of all time. The drive and the fumble.
You know your city is in trouble when there is 1 devastating loss nickname. This city has 2.
If you're in Cleveland and you say the drive and the fumble, it makes the fans want to throw up.
Clevelanders, bear with us as we regurgitate the details of this 1-2 punch of devastation that rocked the city, beginning with the 1986 AFC Championship game between the Broncos and Browns.
Brian Brennan waltzing into the end zone to give the Browns a touchdown lead.
Place is going absolutely crazy. And then on top of that, the Broncos have trouble with the kickoff.
You may have just seen the straw
that broke the Broncos back.
They have the Broncos backed up to the 2-yard line. They're going, we have this one.
Super Bowl! Well, the fat lady hasn't sung yet, but you can believe she's in the wings warming up the pipes.
Every great athlete needs a moment that separates him from the rest. And for John Elway, that moment arrived with 5 minutes and 44 seconds remaining against the Browns.
And John Elway, who hasn't done much all day, and he's covered in mud from his shoulder all the way down to his white pants.
Right down the field. I mean, it was phenomenal.
It's a Denver first down and a gain of 20.
And then zip.
The look, the throw.
Boom, Jackson.
Touchdown.
They don't score. They don't win. That's right.
And remember, the Browns have a chance to win this in overtime and can't do that either.
The field goal.
Carlos's kick.
That was missed. The missed field goal.
And it is good.
That didn't make it. That shouldn't have won the game.
The Denver Broncos win it in overtime.
Next thing you know, you start hearing it from the sports writers, the drive.
So the Browns are going to get revenge. There's going to be vindication.
This time, they think it's their turn.
Oh, yeah, Denver? Remember that drive last year? Stick it.
Actually, the Browns were stuck in a 21-3 halftime deficit before they came rushing back.
Ernest Biner single-handedly made it possible for us to win.
Biner finished the 87 AFC Championship game with 187 total yards and 2 touchdowns.
Biner's second score of this third quarter.
But if that's all he did, the Browns might not be number 2 on our list.
The drive was John Elway, and the fumble was Ernest Biner.
38-31 Denver. Draw to Biner.
I remember standing behind that end zone, and it just looked like, oh, no, this is going to happen again.
You don't really see the fumble because of the mass of bodies. You just hear Dick Enberg say,
Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my.
Tearing the heart out of Cleveland. So if I'm a Browns fan, oh my God, how's my life? How much pain can you have?
At that point, you might as well just disband the team.
That's exactly what happened a few years later with the first incarnation of the Browns.
You can say that's what led to the Baltimore Ravens.
I know you can't project a couple of wins in a game to, stadium referendums, but at the same time, you hoist a couple of Super Bowl flags, you think that team really leaves?
I think it's probably a good idea that you guys combined 2 miserable moments in Brown history because, it really does all just become one, blizzard headed toward the windshield of disaster.
Touchdown!
To be on the doorstep in that short amount of time, the same opponent, the same circumstance, the heartbreak's so real and raw.
The only solace I would say is that for fans of Hot Tub Time Machine, there's always hope. If you go back and replay history, the Browns can win.
Up next, a devastating conclusion that might be the most controversial number 1 selection in top 10 history.
I think it is worthy of being number 1.
That's number 1?
That's as devastating as it gets, devastating capital D.
Get this out of the top 10.
I can't watch it. It's tough, ain't it?
Watching so many devastating defeats isn't easy, which is why it pains us to have to recap the misery that has led to number 1 on our countdown.
Number 10, the Bucs bully the Birds in the Bets farewell.
The Buccaneers spent the rest of the game giving the Eagles a wedgie.
Number 9, the Pats tucked the Raiders into a long hibernation.
Oakland went this way, and New England went this way.
Number 8, Favre's championship shows.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Number 7, after this home run, the Bills continue to strike out.
Bills have not been back to the playoffs since.
Number 6, the Bills send the Oilers packing.
They come back from a 32-point deficit, and the Houston Oilers end up moving to Nashville.
Number 5, a devastating decision.
Why don't you give the ball to Beast Mode? You got Beast Mode.
Number 4, a shoestring. The thin line between coronation and devastation.
Get that close to it and then lose is the worst.
Number 3, still devastating after all these years.
It still goes wide right, and it replays in the memory of Bills fans.
Number 2. 2 devastating defeats haunt one Snake Pit City.
These two nightmares walk hand in hand.
Oh, my!
And now, the number 1 most devastating loss of all time, Super Bowl 42.
The most devastating loss in NFL history is Super Bowl 42. I don't even think anything else even comes close.
And that is it. The New York Giants have knocked off the New England Patriots with the most improbable win in recent memory.
Get this Patriots fan bootlicking, butt-kissing selection out of the top 10.
Crushing defeat, heartbreaking loss.
The Patriots' season is over, unfulfilled at the end.
You beat them, man. Just the way you did it, too. 18-1.
I think it is worthy of being number 1.
That's number 1?
What could ever be more devastating than seeing the perfect season slip through your fingers?
Boo-hoo. The Patriots lost the Super Bowl.
Nothing compares to it.
Maybe the greatest team of all time, greatest offense of all time, greatest coach of all time, greatest quarterback of all time, maybe the most talented receiver of all time.
For Randy Moss, touchdown reception number 23. For Tom Brady, touchdown pass number 50.
That one has to be as bad as it gets.
In the old, 9 out of 10 times Patriots win. Well, on that day, they didn't.
It was 14-10. They would have won it if they could have just stopped a 3rd and 5 miracle.
A pulse-pounding finish to Super Bowl 42. Direct snap to Manning. Back to throw. The rush. Gonna be hit. Gonna be sacked. No, he got out of it. Now he fires downfield. And it is not caught.
How the heck did that ball stick in his hand and that helmet, and did he come down with it?
And what a catch by Tyree with 58 seconds to go.
You could rub fruit by the foot for the next 50 years on your helmet, and it still wouldn't be sticky enough to keep that ball in place.
We're talking about a guy who came out of nowhere to make the most unbelievable catch in Super Bowl history.
Has to be the greatest catch ever. You have to consider the stakes. A minute to go in the Super Bowl, down by 4, 3rd and 5.
No matter where he goes for the rest of his life, he's going to be the guy who superglued a ball to his helmet and won a Super Bowl.
For a guy to pull off a catch like that, you can't hate on a guy like that.
It's the most painful loss in NFL history. There's no doubt about it.
To be that close to immortality, that's hard to swallow.
When you talk about immortality and perfection, how many people even get a chance to be in that position?
The New York Giants have knocked off the New England Patriots 17-14. The Patriots will not be perfect.
Man, that's got to be bad.
This was going to be 19-0. How do you ever forget how close you were to being that historic of a team?
It's as if the Don Shula and the 72 Dolphins just had that Patriots voodoo doll and they stuck it one last time.
Perfectville remains a town with one person in it. The Miami Dolphins.
That's as devastating as it gets, devastating capital D.
I hate this as number 1. This is not a devastating loss for the Patriots. This is a glorious victory for the New York Giants. Not every great win for one team is a big loss for another team, especially when the other team is just so spoiled with success that you almost want to see them lose a little bit so they know how it feels.
Perfect. All right.
Drop the mic.